Well, hello, Hayden. How you doing?
Hey, Martine, good to see you again. Look
Have-
forward to this interview you're going to do with me here.
oh, we just have a good time, don't we?
Yep, absolutely.
So today we're talking about, how great leaders connect. I mean, that's a big topic. How do they connect with the people they work with and their peers and all that? But before we kind of get too deep into that, I have a question, and it's really out of the book. And you say one of the first things you say in the chapter about what creates our human connection is you say that human beings are hardwired to connect. What do you mean by that?
How do we get results? We get results through interacting with other human beings, through our interaction with other human beings. And if we're not able to connect, we don't get results. So part of being hardwired is the importance in our lives to get results in our lives to connect with other human beings. We'll get into how great leaders or how leaders connect. We'll
Hmm.
get into the importance of connection. Uh, talk about the explosion of social media. There's a lot of things that we'll get into, but human beings are hardwired to connect. That's what makes our lives purposeful. Creates meaning in our lives is to connect with other human beings.
Yeah, I don't think nobody likes to walk into a room and not be recognized or at least have somebody acknowledge them or something. It's just the way we are, right?
You know, isn't it nice to be acknowledged or people share their gratitude with you? It's like, that felt good. I liked it. It's a
Absolutely.
feeling of connection that that transforms our lives into something that has meaning. If we're a hermit, we're not connecting with others, we probably think, what's the relevance of my life? I'm not interacting with other human beings.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely, absolutely. So you were talking about social media. What do you started talking about the social media aspect? How does that affect our connection, our human connection?
you can see the explosion of social media and how people are connecting worldwide.
Yeah.
Arab Spring happened because people were connected on Facebook and they got together and they were sharing what democracy meant in an Arab world. So that
Yeah.
was one of the way for them to connect is they are addressing each other's needs, the needs to have a say in their life.
Hmm.
They're addressing, they don't feel good about it. How do you create a good feeling is to have your needs met. And how do you get your needs met? You create a common language and meaning about what's happening in your area, and that was Arab Spring. It happens with funding, this crowdfunding.
Yeah.
People are connecting with others. People are contributing to projects by others, and crowdfunding is an important way to connect. But it also has to do with uh, meeting a need of people wanting the funding, people creating a common meaning like this is important for our community, for what's happening, so let's contribute to it.
Yeah.
So maybe we can get into what are the four components of our human connection and how that relates to social media, to how leaders connect with their employees, and we can get into some of that today.
Let's jump into it right now because I think that's really the key to this whole thing. How do leaders connect, and what are those four components that leaders use to connect?
Absolutely. So there are four areas. Let me just state the four areas, then we'll talk about them a little
Okay.
bit. So, number one is observations, what we're seeing around us, what people are saying or doing that we're observing. Number two is the meaning we create about it. How do we process what we're seeing,
Hmm.
and what meaning do we create around it in our own heads, in our own being? And thirdly is the feelings we have. If we're feeling negative, if we're feeling uncomfortable, usually it means some of our needs aren't being met. So if our needs are met, we feel comfortable, we feel confident. So the four areas are observations and meanings. Those are inextricably linked. You have to observe something before you create a meaning. And the other two are feelings and needs. And feelings and needs are inextricably linked. That they don't exist without the other. And we talked about this in our last webinar, the importance of taking people's feelings and needs seriously And when we do and we address them, we can get different results. So those are the four areas that we need to talk about in order to understand the explosion of social media and to understand how leaders connect with themselves, with each other, and with their employees.
Why don't we start with observations? I have, in the book I look at basically the external facts of life that we see or we hear, right? That's what our observations are.
Yeah, it's external. It's what we're seeing or hearing. The challenge is people see something
Uh huh.
and then they immediately create a meaning. And the problem occurs when people relate to that internal meaning they created or the story they created, their perspective, as an objectionable or as a objective fact. Their meanings are subjective. It's what they made up. But the external facts are objective. And if you confuse the two, you create some problems for yourself and those around you. So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
If I see someone and I think, man, they're treating that person with disrespect. I see them interact, I hear their words, and the meaning I create is they're creating disrespect for each other.
Uh huh.
So, you know, if I confuse those two, them interacting with them disrespecting each other, I'm confusing it by relating to this subjective meaning around what's really happening. Now, they may not be respecting each other. Maybe that's the way they banter with each other. That's how they play. And they've been doing that and they enjoy it. But coming from a different culture or a different way of life, I may have a different meaning on it.
Yeah.
So observations, meanings are inextricably linked. And we need to be careful that we don't relate meanings as subjective facts or objective facts as subjective meanings.
Yeah, it kind of makes me think of something. Every day I pick up my kids from school, and my son now goes to high school. I've talked about that in the different webinars, and so now he's trying out for basketball. And so yesterday I picked him up and two of his friends from school, and they got in the back of the car and they were just going off. And I'm like, wow, to me they were very disrespectful to each other. And when we sat down at the dinner table last night, I was asking him, I think that's kind of rude. What do you think? He goes, Dad, that's how we all talk to each other. So,
Yeah, see, you created a different meaning. They got their meaning. And let's talk with each other and make sure we're in alignment with our meaning.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because his view is, this is awesome. I'm connecting.
Yep.
I'm with my friends and we're building relationships, and I'm over here going, you guys are just being disrespectful to each other. What's going on? And so it's two different meanings based on my
Yeah.
observation.
Yeah, yeah, perfect example. Yeah, you're in a different culture.
Yeah.
You older
Old man.
human being. You're not this younger culture of
That's
hey,
right.
that's just the way we talk with each other.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's good. Okay, cool. So let's go into feelings then. So we have observations and then meanings, and then we have our feelings and our needs. Let's talk about that how they all kind of really come together. But let's first distinguish needs and feelings real quick, and then we'll talk about how they all kind of roll together.
Sure. Needs are why we do things. It's what's important to us. So I have a need to connect with you as someone that's going to interview with me, and I feel real comfortable with that. So we have a good connection, and I feel comfortable with it. If I had a need to connect with you and I didn't feel comfortable, it means something's not right in our connection. We probably ought to have a talk about it in order to figure out what it is and to meet both of our needs. So needs is why we do things. It's what drives us. It's where we get our energy in life is to meet our needs. And then the feelings is the horsepower for us to get our needs met. And, we talked about last time, feelings have two functions. One is the GPS to let us know if our needs are being met or not. And the other one is gas to give us the horsepower for living. However, sometimes we use our feelings as gas to explode on each other, and that doesn't work,
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
So there's a lot. You put a lot in there. So I'm thinking about needs. So needs are our indicators. Needs don't really. They don't experience anything. They just are a need or they're not a need. Is that correct?
We went over Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Uh huh.
Needs for survival, safety, belonging, self-esteem, self-actualization. Those are internal needs all human beings have at
Yes.
some level. So they just exist. Feelings or a guidance system let us know if our needs, individual needs, are met. And if people want to get a list of needs, we have Maslow hierarchy, and then we have sub needs underneath them, like respect, contribution, to be understood, a lot of other needs. You can get them on our website, and we'll talk about that later. You can get a list of needs, a list of feelings, a list of meanings, feelings, and needs on our website that I think will make sense for you.
Okay, terrific. So I have a need. I have this particular need, but if the feelings are the indicators, the feeling's the one that tells me that need is in or out, is in alignment or out of alignment. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Pretty
So
simple.
yeah, it is real simple. So we go back and we say we got observations, meanings, feelings, and needs. Okay. So we're talking about great leaders and their ability to connect. So
Uh-huh.
do great leaders have a better ability, if you will, better for lack of a better word? Do they have a better ability to observe without opining and creating meanings that kind of take them off course, manage their feelings and manage their needs better?
Yeah, yeah. You say great leaders, so we have to determine great leaders are people that get things done. They incorporate, they include others, and they meet the needs of the greater population rather than their own needs. So that's what I term as greater. And so, an example. One of the things we write about in the book is Ronald Reagan during his presidency.
Hmm.
He visited Mikhail Gorbachev in Russia.
Yeah.
And he said one of his greatest accomplishments was meeting with Mikhail Gorbachev and not seeing him as an evil enemy, but simply seeing him as a human being. And he said, that is what allowed him and Mikhail Gorbachev to create the nuclear arms treaty.
Yeah.
And most people think, that made our world a safer place. That's the greater human endeavor there to make our world a safer place. And Ronald Reagan was absolutely clear. He said, that nuclear arms treaty would not have taken place if Mikhail Gorbachev and I did not get together and see each other as human beings.
Wow.
It is that connection with each other is seeing each other as human beings. So if we were to take that just for a moment here and break it down a little, they both had the need for safety for themselves and for their community, and they were conscious of their needs for that, and they were feeling uncomfortable about what was going on with nuclear arms. They were concerned, uncomfortable, and so when they got together, they talked about the need for safety in our world and with our communities, our countries, and talked about their concerns, so they expressed their feelings. And then they said, the facts are we have nuclear weapons. What meaning do we want to create out of that? We want to create a meaning we can blow each other up whenever we want to?
Yeah.
Or do we want to create a meaning that we just want to detour others from blowing us up, and we want to create a nuclear arms treaty so that we don't do that with each other? They created the same meaning, even though Russian language and English, same meaning of, hey, these nuclear weapons can destroy us, or we can create a treaty that can help keep us safe. So they connected on all four areas. They observed the nuclear power. They had needs for safety. They had feelings of concern, and they created the same meaning that they operated within. And a direct result of their mutual meaning they created was a nuclear arms treaty. So
That's
those
pretty
are
amazing.
two powerful leaders of two of the greatest or biggest countries in the world coming together and creating the same meaning and taking action on it.
Yeah, I would even say that before they did all that, they had to observe how they looked at each other, because I would imagine they would have had a lot of pressure of a lot of people. Just go in there and kick his butt, Ronnie. Just go in there and kick some butt and get it done. And that's just all force and leverage, and you're an evil empire, you're an evil person, so I'm going to have my way. But then going from that, and actually like you said, saying being able to look at somebody as a human being and say, maybe this person, I observe these things, I'm making it mean all this. Maybe I can make it mean something else. This guy's just a human being with kids and a wife, and just like me, and I want to be safe, and I don't feel too comfortable with guns pointing at my country and pointing guns at other people's country. And that's fundamentally what they did as a leader, as two great leaders.
They connected as human beings. Good point. And the other point you just made that I thought, they didn't go in there with an attitude, I'm going to kick butt, which is starting fights.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're going to go start a fight with someone. And if you start a fight, if the two most powerful human beings on the planet running countries start a fight, then you have problems with the nuclear powers, So they didn't start a fight. They connected with each other as human beings, and then they took action to make this world a safer place.
And that's the same thing that can happen with leaders on a football team, on a basketball team, on any company, whether you're multi-level, whether you're running a national corporation. It's the same thing. It's I can go to my boardroom and pick a fight, or I can go to my boardroom and notice that I'm observing things and I'm making meanings and I'm having certain feelings, and we all have needs here, and let's address those.
Excellent point. Excellent point. I worked with a company. It's a hospital, and they're going through a CEO transition right now. The previous CEO had been there for a number of years, and he included the leadership. He asked them their opinions. He gathered information and made his decisions. With the new CEO that's coming on, he operates in a closed door office. He doesn't go and include the other leaders. He's making decisions in a vacuum. And so the other leaders have expressed to me, my need for inclusion isn't being met.
Yeah.
My need for contribution isn't being met. My need to be understood isn't being met by this new CEO. And that's causing some feelings of anxiety, wondering, am I going to be around? What's he going to do with me? And so there's a lot of angst going on there. He came there and the board gave him a directive of several things he had to get done. So he observed it, he heard what the board said, and he created a meaning. If I'm going to get things done, I've got to do it myself, and boy, these leaders better come along with me.
Yes, right.
That's not the same meaning that the leaders have. Meaning is, we all want to work with you on this. We want to pull together, and they have two different meanings, and there's this tug of war going on, and some of the leaders are thinking, we just need to leave because this isn't working for us. So, we get right down to flow, what we talked about before. Flow is we operate in a way that works for others and works for ourselves. If something isn't working for others and we're doing it instead, in spite of them, we're creating disconnection and disharmony, and that won't work well for our companies or for our products if that continues to go that way. So it's really about helping create mutual meaning.
Yeah.
That we say, this works for us. Let's do this. And pulling together in flow, which is the positive, dynamic, creative, forward-moving energy between people. And that has to do with the meaning we create. We can really create flow with each other. Let's do it.
That's right. We can point in the same direction, or we can just blow up and go in our own little directions. And guess what? I'm going to quit working. I'm going to go work for another company.
Yeah, absolutely. This isn't working for me. Let me go find someplace that I belong better. Right now, I'm not included. I don't feel like I belong.
But the problem is you go to another company and you don't necessarily belong on that too. So, you're still you're rolling the dice. That's the thing is it's a team effort. It requires not only the leadership. It doesn't only require great leaders. It requires great followers as well. People that are willing to get behind and change their observations and meanings as well.
You bring up a good point. If you leave one company and go to the other, if you haven't addressed the challenges in your current company, you just bring your challenges with you wherever you go. You have the same problems if you haven't learned to deal with your problems now. So I say, if you're going to create a difference, it requires having a conversation, having a dialogue, a free flow information where you get to agreements. Just because you bring up a topic doesn't mean you've created an agreement. Just because you talk about something, go off and do it, doesn't mean that there's an agreement, everyone's in alignment with you. So
yeah.
Conversation and dialogue needs to get to a point where we have an agreement. This is what we're going to do, and we're going to work together on this.
And that's where the heart of flow comes in. That's where
Absolutely.
yeah, the heart of flow, and consciously being consciously curious about what you observe, what your feelings are, and what the meanings and the needs are that you're making, right?
And what the meanings are you're making, because that's critical. And I think one of the things we'll talk about later
Uh-huh.
is the importance of our perspectives and how one perspective can drive a whole host of meanings. And we're going to talk about perspectives at a time. And I think that's one of the key areas we can take back our power is on how we view things and the meanings we create in order to get the results we want in our lives.
Cool. So, okay, so let me kind of summarize that. We're saying great leaders have the ability to observe, be able to distinguish that they're simply observing something. So, understand that there's facts, and then feel, and with meanings, be able to have the ability. They have the ability to not just go off and just make some crazy meaning, or just kind of go off. They can be how would you say, somewhat. Intelligent, if you will, or just actually create a forward-moving meaning, something that serves them and serves everybody. And then you have the feelings, the way they feel, and then their needs. So we know what feelings are and we know what needs are, and I think that we're clear about that. My question is you take meanings and observations, you stick those together. How do you separate that? Because to me it seems like they're just stuck together like glue. I observe something and I make a meaning of it before I even know it. It's automatic. How do you pull those two things apart?
I love your questions, Martine. Thank you. Yeah, they are. They're inextricably linked, meaning you can't have one without the other. And you observe it, and the distinction comes in realizing one's an external fact and the other one is an internal meaning. I have control over my internal meanings. I don't always have control over the external facts. And the external facts are not what we made up about it. It's what actually happened. So if you were filming it with a camera and you were filming it, you would hear what people say, you would see their actions, and those are facts. Meanings, then, are what we make up about it. And I think the sign of maturity for us as human beings is to question the meaning we create, to verify with other people. Is this what you meant by that? Most of the time, we see an email, we get a phone call, a message, someone leaves a message, and we create all sorts of meanings around it. Whereas if we would slow down our judgment making, slow down our meaning making, and simply call the person and go, would you tell me what you meant by that? Question our meanings and verify with others. That would help us to get more into alignment with each other.
Oh, that's brilliant. So how do we access these four components? This needs, feelings, meanings, and observation. How do we access those to make ourselves greater leaders?
Wow, you ask these tough questions, Martine. And I'm supposed to answer them in 2 minutes or less. Yeah.
You wrote the book, man.
Okay, yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. So how to access them. The first one is just realize all this data coming in is just data everyone else is seeing. It's information, and it's out there in the world, and then I make it mean something. So to create that distinction between what's happening and what I make it mean is an important aspect. The other part is realizing that attached to that is our needs being met or not and the feelings we have, and to separate the two and to use our feelings to address whatever needs aren't being met. And I think that's important. So just looking at these four things, observations, meanings, feelings, and needs, and realize they all come into making us human, but they're all separate as well, that we can look at and go, okay, what do we make this mean? And what feelings do I have about this? So the first part for me is to ask the question, what am I feeling about this? What need of mine isn't being met right now? What am I observing? And what's the meaning I'm creating? Another possible meaning that could possibly be there that maybe I can check with the other person. Just questioning ourselves and verifying. It says trust and verify. Well, let's question ourselves and verify. Is that what's going on with other people? And one last caveat here. just because everyone agrees with you doesn't make it right.
That's true.
Just because they create the meaning
That's
doesn't
right.
mean it's right. And we see that in our political system here. Republicans,
Absolutely.
Democrats, it doesn't make it right. Is it really getting the results we want for our country? If not, maybe we need to focus a little differently about how we relate to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of a tweet that I saw, and I printed out this thing, and it says, the differences between a boss and a leader. A boss drives employees, depends on authority, inspires fear, says I. A leader coaches employees, depends on goodwill, generates enthusiasm, and says we. Big difference.
Yeah, big difference. This brings me to the quote I put in the book, and I'd like to read the quote. It's by Nelson Mandela, and he says, "To be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others." And so this questioning, is this a meaning that we are all taking on here? And to be in dialogue respects others and enhances their ability to shed light on what they meant on something. So let's cast off the chains. Let's stop putting people in boxes, and let's verify what's happening in our relationship with others to create flow with each other.
Nice. And then from flow, we get energy, we get motivation, and all that stuff happens.
Energy is a big thing. When we're in flow, how do you get that energy? That energy is when our needs are being met, we feel good about it, and I think that's what our next webinar will be about, is our human energy, where it comes from and what drives us.
Yeah, actually, our next webinar is called The Path to High Energy Employees. That's a great one. I mean, what would it be like to have employees that operated not necessarily like all this spaz, like I got all this energy, but bringing enthusiasm or bringing their creativity to their job and to their different functions that they're doing. So we're going to talk about the path to high energy employees.
Oh,
Pretty exciting,
well,
huh?
I look forward to hearing that one.
That's right. So I read your
Yeah.
book and then I come up with something to talk about.
Yeah, all right. No, that's great. Yeah, and I think it's important to realize we are following the book in
Yeah,
sequence according to the topics there. And this is the next topic out of our human connection, is where does our human energy come from?
absolutely. And what we want to do is we want to address something that pertains to what the different organizations are going through. How to develop high energy employees, or how to bring more energy to your organization or your company.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Let's create flow with everyone, not just with the leaders.
Cool. Well, we're actually almost out of time, but I want to run one or two quick questions through you. Is that okay?
Oh, absolutely. And these are questions people have posted previously on Facebook or website that you're going to tell people how they can do that, and we
Yeah.
can bring these questions up in our interviews.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, so let me tell you
Right.
real quick before. So on our on our Twitter page, and in order to connect with us at Twitter is C Choosing. That's our Twitter handle, and our Facebook is Facebook/Conscious Choosing. And what we'd like you to, how to connect with us is to ask us questions, send us messages, all that, and we'll get right back to you as quick as we can. And we even try to have some of your questions on our webinar if we can do that. Now, there's a question from Mary in Atlanta, and she said, I'm an emergency room RN, a touchy-feely person, and all the doctors I work with seem stiff and unemotional. How do I connect with people who don't share the same needs as I do?
Here comes the four components of our human connection. Maybe they do have the same needs. We're creating a meaning in our head here.
Yeah.
They don't have the same meaning and needs as we do. Maybe they do. I think they have the same meanings for survival, for safety, for belonging, self-esteem, all of those things. But they operate differently according to their personality styles. And I don't want to confuse personality styles with us being humans. There's a lot of different styles how people operate, introvert, extrovert, a lot of areas. So part of it is being in a conversation with the doctor and creating the meanings that are common to all of you. The operating room, what's important to you. If a doctor is yelling at a nurse, which I've worked with in a group where that happened regularly, The nurse needs to talk with the doctor and say, I have a need for respect, and yelling at me doesn't show respect, and
Sure.
I'd like to create a different way to deal with this with you, and would you be willing to? That uses our approach with observations, feelings, needs, requests.
Yeah.
Uh, I think if I could tag on to this just a little bit, this is Thanksgiving time that people are going to listen to this. And at Thanksgiving time, all the different family get together and, it's family, we're
Yeah.
connected. And, my wife's family comes into town from Hawaii and Colorado and has a sister here. And some people are vegetarians, some are vegans, some are meat eaters. There's a lot of meaning around the food we eat.
Yeah.
But the purpose is to connect. That's our need, is to connect. So let's focus on the greater need of connecting with our family and others. And the same with this nurse and doctors is like, let's connect with them rather than judge them and create meanings in our head that they're not right or they don't have the same needs.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation with them and find out what's important and how we can work better together.
Yeah, that's a great answer. What I'd like to add to that is, for me, what I've learned is actually to be authentically interested in what the other person's need is. I have a need. Maybe the person's yelling at me. Maybe the person's treating me with what I call disrespect. I'm interested in what their need is that's causing them to use that as a strategy toward me. So
Ah.
does that make sense?
You're an enlightened human being, aren't you,
Well,
Martine? Most
depends who
people
you ask.
they don't get to that level of, okay, what's their need? Most of us are like, hey, my need, what's in it for me? My need is to be met, and I'm going. It's like, okay, if we can at least think about the other person, what's their need? We have created what's called empathy. Like, we're considering the other person. It's not just all about me. It's really about us.
Yeah.
It's rather than I versus you. It's like we. What are we going to do about this? And that's an important aspect. So congratulations. That's a wonderful place to be, is like, what's their need? It gives you a greater access to influencing them. If you can guess what their need, they confirm it, and then you can say, okay, great. How would you like to get this need met? And
Yeah.
it starts a different conversation then.
Well,
Absolutely.
absolutely, and I have found that that in meeting other people's needs, my needs got met so much quicker. It was they were then feeding my need at the same time. So it was really that true flow that we talk about.
See, you are an enlightened human being. You realize to get your needs met is to identify what theirs needs, and then they both get your needs met.
It's all
Most
good.
people don't come from that place, Martine.
Well, I
Good
learned
for
it in
you.
your. Trust me, I learned it in your workshop. I didn't know that coming into this thing.
Oh, how great! Thank you.
So listen, we're about 34 minutes, and we're committed to going 30 minutes, so we're a little over. I want to thank everybody, appreciate everybody for hanging in with us. I want to walk you through the website and a couple different things that we have to offer at Conscious Choosing. So real quick, let's talk a little bit about where you can get the needs and feelings list that we're talking about if you're interested in doing that. Let's talk about that, Hayden. I'm gonna
Sure.
actually dial it up as you're talking about it on the computer.
Okay. So you can go to our website, go to Why It Works, and you put the cursor over that, and a drop down it says uh, resources.
Hmm.
And you can go there, and then you can download needs lists that has on the titles of each one Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and underneath that sub needs. And you can get a feelings list, feelings you have when your needs aren't satisfied, feelings you have when your needs are satisfied. And there's another list there that has meanings and possible feelings people have and possible needs that aren't being met. And that graph that connects meanings with feelings and needs, one veterinarian said to me, if you would have showed this to me at the beginning of the workshop, everything would have made sense. So that's a good one to take a look at. And I think one of the other resources is the STAR process for results
That's a
that
great
we
one.
share
Yeah.
with people.
Yes.
So, and that's how to get results, and a structure and process to have conversations where it talks about facts, observations, and then what the needs are, and then talk about strategies, and then moving into action.
That's
So,
terrific. And real quick, At conscious choosing, what is the commitment of conscious choosing? What would you say that the vision of the commitment of conscious choosing is for you?
Our tagline has been creating results through our human connection. We talked about the four components of our connection, but once we connect, how do we create results together? And you alluded to this, and when you focus on other people's needs, your needs are met.
Yeah.
That's getting results for both of you. And so, creating results through our human connection is really the focus of conscious choosing for flow. And the other thing we do is transforming conflict into creativity. And it's pretty simple once you learn the process.
Terrific. So great leaders focus on the needs of other people as well as themselves. And if you'd like to bring conscious choosing for flow to your organization, your company, how can they get a hold of us? What's the best way for people to do that, to bring us to them?
Yeah, there's a place on our website that says contact us,
Uh-huh.
and so they can contact us through email. That's probably the best way. Set up a time to talk, and someone here at Conscious Choosing will have a conversation with them, probably me, and then we can do that. Maybe you would have the conversation, Martine. Who knows? So that's the best way to get a hold of us, and you can send an email info@consciouschoosing.com, and it will come to our company, and it will be directed appropriately.
So thanks again, Hayden. Have an awesome Thanksgiving, and all that different food that everybody's going to eat. Have a great
Yes.
time.
Yeah, best to you, Martine.
Thank
Yep.
you. And
Have a great Thanksgiving.
all you people out there, thank you very much for coming to our webinar. And we just wish you guys a happy Thanksgiving and a wonderful holiday season. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.